The sun has gone down at Hangman's Hill, and the ghost at Misery Corner isn't walking tonight. So, welcome to the Weird Tales Radio Show, your weekly fix of ghost stories, urban myths, witchcraft, magic, and folklore. And now, here's your host, writer, award-winning journalist, best-selling author, and sometime werewolf hunter, Charles Christian.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Weird Tales Radio Show. I'm Charles Christian, and thank you very much for tuning in again. This week we have the third and final part of our interview with the Reverend Bill McDonald as we continue to discuss his life and the lessons he has learned from near-death experiences, the Vietnam War, meditation and mysticism. But that's not all, because we also have a short interview with Rex Hurst, the author of a new novel that asks what would happen if all those satanic cult panics of the 1980s were actually true, based on fact. We'll be hearing from Rex later on in the show, but first, let's have some more from the Reverend Bill McDonald.
So that's how I go through life. I set my sails, and the wind is the breath of love. And you sail with it. You go with it. And when you're betrayed by somebody, a friend or somebody, that's the worst kind of hurt. But you still forgive them. You may not hang around with them anymore. You may socially distance them. There's a new expression, right? Social distance yourself. But you don't hate them. You forgive them. And if somebody was truly your friend and they really messed you over or lied to you or did things to you, they need your friendship at a higher level than they need anything else. So even if you're not hanging with them or telling them anything, every night you should be sending them love and your friendship. Because the people that have hurt people are the people needing the most blessings and the most love. Who wants to just keep punishing people? Let them learn the lesson. Forgive them. Don't let them do that anymore. They have to pay the price. Obviously, they've done some major stuff wrong. But that's their karma. But it doesn't mean you have to take enjoyment in watching people suffer from their karma. So that's kind of my stuff in a nutshell. I've been to India 4 times. I've had near-death experiences 3 times. Probably the most unique near-death experience was in India. 2 of them in India. One, I was climbing up to Babaji's cave. If you ever read the autobiography of a yogi, I don't know if you have or not, Yogananda wrote this book, and in this book, he talks about this great avatar, Babaji, who came to a great saint, a yogi named Larry Masha in the 1800s. And he met him in his cave, and he gave him this Kriya Yoga meditation to give to the masses because it was being lost. It wasn't being taught only to the highest people. It was so hard for people to qualify to get it. And he asked this great master, can I teach this to the world? So anyway, so this is a very sacred place. I read about it in a book and as a kid, and I said, I want to go there. Someday I want to go there. And I wanted to go there from 8 years old. And it wasn't until I was 58 and a half years old that I finally got there. But I went to the cave, and coming back, I got lost because I didn't have a guide. And it means I got lost. And I had a heart attack, amongst other things. I had a heart attack standing on this 30-foot cliff in the Himalayas. And I keeled over a 30-foot cliff. Thank God it wasn't straight down. It kind of had a couple of bumps. So you drop 10 feet, then you bounce and drop another 10 feet, till you end up at the bottom laying on a big boulder of rock. And I'm laying there looking up at the sky, blue sky and clouds, realizing that my chest is not hurting anymore, realizing I'm not breathing. I'm not even feeling my body. I just landed on this rock. I don't feel nothing. And then pretty soon I realize I'm looking down at my body, and I see my body down there just laying there looking up. And it's not me, right? And I'm going, well, wow, I must have had a major heart attack, Well, I've been to Babaji's cave. I got part of my bucket list done. That's good. So, and I'm looking up at the sky, and the sky, I don't know if you guys watch the cartoon. There's The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's anyway, in the beginning of that show, it goes, The Simpsons, and the sky opens up, the clouds separate. Anyway, it's kind of like The Simpsons. Anyway, there I'm looking up the sky, and I'm looking down at my body, and all of a sudden I see this large cobra snake crawl out of the grass. And it's crawling across my boots, my feet. Now, when I say large, because I really can't tell the full length because it crosses my feet, goes into the grass on the other side, and his tail's still in the grass. So in no time could I see the head and tail together. But first time I told the story, I told my wife, beautiful lady, she tries to hold me to the truth. I think I said, yeah, it's not 6.5, must have been at least 6.5, 7 foot tall, long,
Mm-hmm.
And then she caught me about 5 years later telling the story, and I'm saying, it's this giant cobra. It had to be 12 feet long. Being an Irishman, it comes out of me once in a while, so forgive me. But so we'll just say it's unknown length, but it was big, it's huge. And when it's on your feet, you tell me it's not huge, right? So this thing's crawling across my dead body. And I get so excited. It's almost like a love, excitement. I feel love for this cobra. And all of a sudden, it's like defibrillators that the paramedics use. I don't know what they call those in England, but
same
electric
thing.
paddles.
The
Electric paddles.
Yeah.
It put them on your chest. And it was like, it's like the snake did that to me. It was like when a snake's crawling across me, it was like somebody put electric paddles on me, and it jump started my spine. My spine like shot up like fireworks. My Kundalini energy was like explosion in my spine, and my heart's pounding, beating again, and I'm breathing, and I'm standing up. And my friend's up on the cliff looking at me like, what's this crazy guy doing, right? And I'm reaching down, and I'm grabbing the snake, and the snake doesn't turn around by me. It just keeps slithering through my hands because it's bigger than my grip. In other words, I can't grip all the way around it.
Yeah.
I can only grip halfway around it. So you tell me how big that is, right? So it's like, it's slithering through. I'm trying to pick it up and cuddle it, right? Like, what an idiot, right? So I chase it through this grass, and it ends up going behind this little tiny waterfall. It must have been only, between 6 and 7, 8, 9 feet, 9 at the most, but probably in 7 foot range. Just trickle coming down this thing, and it gets behind the waterfall. And I'm sitting there, and in the book Autobiography of a Yogi, it talks about after this great master met Babaji, and he did this beautiful miracle for him. He went down to bathe in this little creek, and there was a little waterfall, and he bathed there. And that was a thought that came to me. I thought, wow, this must be the falls that everybody's looking for. I fell into it. Was when I was lost. I couldn't find it on. You could give me $1 million. I couldn't find it again. It was like, anyway. So we followed the stream down, and got back out of there. But it was a unique experience to find yourself dead on a rock, have a cobra snake bring you back. So I thought, that's kind of an odd thing. But then I'm still traveling. It's my first trip to India. I'm still traveling in India. And I go to this desert canyon, and somebody recommended I go there. So we go there, and it's just like in Indiana Jones movies. It's got these cliffs coming together, maybe a soccer field apart at the most, maybe less than that, maybe half a soccer field. And it's got these temples on each side built into the cliffs. I mean, just like you see in the movies, right? This is really cool, right?
Yeah.
So we're walking up there, we go up the steps, and we walk all the way up to the top, and we see this little hill, and this guy comes up and says, there's a sun guru up there that you should go see. I don't want to go see no sun guru. This guy believes in the sun god. No, and he said, oh, no, he should go see it. So my friend says, it might make a good picture, it might be interesting, And I said, well, if we go up there, I'm not going to give him any money. I don't pay for prayers. I don't pay for blessings. Okay. So we walk about a mile up this trail, and we get up top of the hill, and the sun guru is up there, and he looks at us and gives us a finger to come on over, waves us over. And I go, no, I ain't giving you any money. It's the first thing out of my mouth. I go, because I've been in India too long in months,
Yeah.
I don't give money. No donations. If you want to bless me, that's on your own, but I'm not paying for a blessing. God don't need me to pay for a blessing. He says, I have a gift for you. And I said, I ain't buying it. This is a gift. He had watched us come up the hill, and he made, out of the wildflowers while he was watching us, he made 2 flower lays, garlands. And he put one on each of us, and he blessed us and everything. I said, okay, I'm not paying you. He says, no. He just kind of gave us that namaste, with that fingers folded together and everything. And I said, okay. And so I walked, coming down the hill. I had this this young guy, about 30 something, and he's kind of dressed in just kind of like a diaper type thing. I don't know what you call those things.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of a wraparound thing, and he's got bare chest, and he's got some kind of funky flip flops or sandals on, and he's been following me, right? I go, what are you following me for? He says, you teach me meditation. You teach me meditation. And there's something about he's seen me in a dream or something. I'm supposed to help him. I said, no. So I gave him a bottle of water. I had a bottle of water. I gave him a bottle of water, and I said, and he starts telling me about his problems, his life, and stuff. And so I taught him a real simple meditation technique, and he tried to touch my feet. And I said, no, don't do that. So he tried to tell me I was his teacher, and I'm going, I'll give you this. You have my blessings and my love and my friendship. End of story, right? So I leave him and I go down, and there's this, back down by the temples, there's this older lady, and she's got a basket full of, ready for this? Cobras, right?
Yeah.
And she's got 3 or 4 in there that aren't defanged. Some of them look like maybe they did something to make them safe. It looks like maybe they defanged them or something. But she had this one big, huge fangs. And I didn't know if she milked them, milked the poison out or not. So as far as I know, there were several deadly snakes in there. But she's beating this basket with a piece of bamboo stick, and it's making them angry. And they're coming out and they're slithering all around. And she wanted the tourists to see that, right? So they'd come over there and pay money, right? And so I walk over and I'm standing right on top of the basket. I got my legs over this basket with these lovely creatures coming up and darting 2 or 3 feet up into my crotch, my pants, right? Yeah. They're right there, going back and forth, all these cobras, angry, right? And I'm sitting there yelling at her. I mean, I'm not being calm. I'm yelling at her for doing that, and I'm waving my arms. Think about all the things you could do wrong with the snake, right? And I'm waving my arms, and I finally, one's kind of like real close to my pants. I just grab it in the middle of its body. It's got about 3 feet from my hand to its head, and then the rest of the snake hangs out the other side. It was about 6 foot. Yeah, if I held it all the way, its tail would touch the ground. And so I'm shaking it, and this snake is there, right in my face. And I'm shaking it and yelling at her. And next thing I know, I feel on my eyelash a butterfly kiss. In other words, this snake's tongue was licking my eyelash. It was going flip, 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 flip. And my friend is totally freaked out because it's like about 1.5 inches from my eyeball. And there's this big open mouth with fangs, right? And I look at that and I'm totally mesmerized. I'm saying, wow, remember this thing with snakes, right? This is crazy, right? Here I'm looking at a snake literally down the throat. And I'm looking at this dark cavern. To me, it's a cave. And I'm just looking down through the darkness, and I'm feeling pulled into it, almost like a trance. I'm just being pulled into the snake. And I'm feeling peace. I'm feeling love. I'm feeling bliss. And the snake is just flipping my eyelashes. And of course, my friend's not shooting any pictures of this. I mean, that would have been a great video. He's scared. He's about 25 feet away. So then meanwhile, I relax my grip on this thing, and next thing you know, it wraps about 3 wraps around my neck. And then it comes up, and it's right up, like facing me right in the eye. So it's wrapped around my neck, and then it comes up with its head right in my eye. And while that's going on, another one's fooling around down below. So I noticed it crawled up in my shirt. And it wrapped around, I had a snake, another cobra wrapped around my stomach. And my friend is totally freaked out. And I'm going, what am I doing? I'm saying, this is cool. I mean, what's not to be blissful about this, right? I got a snake that I got no control over inside my clothing, and I got one wrapped around my neck with its fangs right next to my eyes. You couldn't get any more comfortable than that, right? So, you got to follow your instincts. I mean, a normal reaction there would have been, don't do that, right? Mm-hmm. But I had this wonderful experience, and this wonderful thing happen because I just flowed with the moment. And so as I traveled all around India, especially on my first trip, unique things were happening. What's really odd was if we got time, I got another couple stories, or you can cut off anytime you want here. But it's I traveled around India, and I didn't go to a doctor. Believe it or not, I didn't go to a doctor until about 3-4 months later, back in the States. I remember I had that heart attack, right? And so I'm home. That happened. The heart attack happened in October, and I go to a doctor the first part of February of that year. Not too good, right? A typical guy thing, right? But just before I did, I had all these illnesses I came back with, and I had this bump on my forehead, right where the spiritual eye's at. There was a growth there. So I go into the doctor, and the doctor goes, "We got to remove that. That's cancer." I said, "Really?" Yeah, she said, "That's cancerous tumor. I got to cut it out." I said, "Really?" So she cuts it out, 9 stitches. So it's a pretty good hole. And I come home and I take the bandage off. I went, "What'd you do?" I said, "That is so cool." I go to India trying to find enlightenment from all these people. And I come back and I have surgery on my spiritual eye, and they remove the cancer. How symbolic can that be, right? I mean, and of course my wife thinks I'm nuts, but I mean, that's so symbolic in so many ways, right? So, and I still didn't go to the doctor for the heart, right? So anyway, that was in December. I had that done. Then comes February. I have a heart attack on my couch. I collapse in the garage. I'm having a hard time. I'm collapsing several times. I'm thinking, somebody's trying to tell me something, right?
Yeah.
Go take care of it. So I tell my wife, I go, I'm not feeling so good. I think I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to drive myself to the doctor. No big deal. I'll talk to you later, right? I'm having a heart attack. I drive 7 miles to the emergency room in my pickup truck, 5 speeds, the whole thing.
Yep.
Drive around the parking lot trying to find a parking spot at the ER is always a job. Picture a typical hospital where everybody comes because they get medicine, they got a card, they belong, so everybody goes for every little thing, So, and I get in, instead of walking into the emergency part with the ambulances, I walk into the regular walk-in place, and I stand in a line with about 18 or 20 people. 20 minutes. I get up there, they hand me a clipboard, fill us out. Do you have insurance, right? It's in America, right? Do you have health insurance, right? First question they ask. They don't say, "Are you dying? Do you have insurance?" That's the first question, right? So you fill out the pad. So I fill it out. I get in another line with about 6 or 7 or 8 people. Finally get to this woman, this nurse that's taking it, and she reads it, and she looks at it, and she says, she kind of smiles and chuckles. She says, "It says here, if I got this correct, you think you're having a heart attack." And I said, "No, I don't think I'm having a heart attack. I'm actually having a heart attack." She says, "Yeah, I think I'll be the judge of that." She says, "How'd you get here?" I said, "I drove myself in my truck." "Uh-huh. Okay, well, let me listen." Yeah, so she's ready to write me off as anxiety or something, right? So she listens to me, and then a few minutes later, she's calling for a wheelchair, right? And taking me into the doctor's, right? She says, "You're having a heart attack." And I said, "Yeah." And I'm talking to her just like I'm talking right now, right? I said, "Yeah, I know. That's why I came in. I'm having a heart attack." She goes, "No, you're really having a heart attack." I said, "Yeah, I really know that." So I go to the doctor, and he says, "Yeah, you're really having a heart attack. We should do this, that, and all that stuff." And I said, "Okay." I said, so then I started complaining. And I never complained, but I decided, you know what? I said, I've been a vegetarian for, almost 6 decades at that time, right? And I said, and I don't drink, and I don't do drugs, and I don't do chocolate, and I don't do candy, and I don't do salt, and I don't do sugar, and I meditate, and I work out, I do all these things, right? And the guy looks at me, and okay, now I stop you here, because here's where that goes to. When I had my first near-death experience at 8 years old, in that experience, I saw the future up till age almost 59, just right about then, right? The end of that thing, it ended when I'm going to this doctor for the heart attack. That's about as far as I saw my vision to. But while I was watching all these events in my life, the Vietnam War, getting married, all these different things, there was these 2 sets of numbers. There was a 28 and a 58, they just kept flip-flopping around. And I didn't know what it meant. I thought, well, maybe it means I'm going to be dead at 28. And if I'm lucky, maybe I make it to 59. I think it was 28, 50. Anyway, it was these 2 numbers. Whatever the Saturn numbers are. Somebody said, well, what's the Saturn numbers? Every time Saturn comes back, there's 2 numbers. So there I was. And I'm thinking, geez, I'm just a couple of weeks before my birthday. I'm going to be 59, right? That's the time. It's at 58, 59, 28. And so I'm telling the doctor this, and he looks at me and he goes, if you hadn't taken such good care of yourself, he says, with your genetics, you would have been dead by 28. Because I didn't mention this 28, none of that stuff. He just came out and believes this. You'd have been dead at 28 instead of almost 59. I'm thinking, wow, I have those two numbers flipping around. I'm thinking, well, he's going to do surgery on me. Maybe 59 is still not a good number for me, right? I'm thinking, I ran into a guy when I was in the 4th grade. I lived in Silicon Valley, Sunnyvale, the Bay Area. And I ran into a guy in my class. We shared the same birthday. And then I talked to him. We were born in the same hospital, same day, hour apart. Our mothers apparently were in the same hospital room together. We were in the same, bassinets next to each other, right? And the baby thing. And so if astrology is true, I thought, I wonder what he's doing. And I found out that he died just before I went to this doctor, right? He died. And I'm thinking, wow, he had the same chart I did, just an hour difference, and he's dead, right? Mm-hmm. So that didn't give me a lot of confidence going into surgery, but I survived. I'll give away the ending. I survived that one. But anyway, so it's been a series of life events, a lot of neat, beautiful things, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. But I tell you, your listeners out there, don't just chase the supernatural. Look for the spiritual in everything. Don't look for powers. The only power that's worth any currency at all is love. And love takes many shapes and forms: service, forgiveness, helping and aiding people, sympathy. All these things are just an aspect of love. And when you can love all as you love God, and more importantly, love yourself. A lot of people can forgive everybody, they can love everybody, but they don't love themselves. And if you don't really love yourself, you really can't love anybody else, because you can't give what you don't have. Mm-hmm. So that's the only gift I want to give the listeners, if they come away with nothing else. And if they want to go online, my website, which is www. Rev, no dot, no capitals, just RevBillMcDonald.com. And they find me. And I got YouTube videos up if they want to go there, just all kinds of beautiful videos. And anything else you want to share online with them, you can. I'm not in this for any other purpose but to love and serve. And it's getting to be extremely difficult to do so, you would think, with this virus, because I'm locked in my house. I can't go out and give my talks and do all these things. But I'm finding that every day on videos, Skypes, emails, WhatsApp apps, Facebook, all kinds of ways, I'm in touch with people all around the world that 20 years ago this would have been unheard of. Mm-hmm. I don't have to travel around the world. The world is literally at my fingertip, literally, on my phone or on my computer. And so I just caution people out there, live your life like it's your last moment. Don't die with a bucket list. And don't make your bucket list just a bunch of fun stuff. Your bucket list should consist of things like, am I still talking to my brother and sister? Am I talking to my uncle, my mother? Am I still talking to friends? Have I done things to people I want to undo and make, have I cheated somebody? Do I want to give them money now? Do I want to be kind? Look at all these things you can do. And I'll give you one last story, because it deals that theme. I had this guy come to me, and he was not a very nice boss at his company, and he lorded over everybody. He was divorced several times. He had kids by all of his marriages. He had no relationships with any of them. The ex-wives, children, nobody, like for a decade. And he was miserable. So he comes to me, he goes, Reverend Bill, he goes, I got stage 4. Was it stage 4? I think it's stage, whatever it is, the last stage. You're going to die of cancer, right? You got 6 months. So, and can you pray for me? I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pray for you to finish your spiritual bucket list. He goes, what do you mean? I said, this is the opportunity. You know you're dying, right? I mean, we're all going to die. That's not a big deal. But you have an opportunity to know kind of the time frame, right? And how. What have you left undone, unsaid? Go live your life in loving and serving. Right? So I left him. And he was looking for me to, provide a miracle thing or something, or wiser words. And that's what I told him. He just go love and serve. So months later, he's dead, and I talked to his family, and they tell me all these beautiful stories about how he checked in on them and helped them with their bills and listened to them. And they said that like with quotes, listen. He never listened to anybody. It was all control and him. But he actually listened to somebody. How are you? And then actually listen, right? Anyway, so he reestablished his relationship with his children and his wife. And they said, and I asked him, I said, I guess he told you about his cancer. He says, no, we didn't know about it until he was dead. So he never used that for sympathy. He went to them straight on, just being, reject me or anything. He didn't want sympathy for them to listen to him. Mm-hmm. He wanted it. So there's a guy that no matter how he lived his life, how he started it, and how the middle of it was, the ending was perfect. The ending was beautiful. And that's probably where I probably should end. So live your life for the ending. It's how you end the life that's the most important. You don't got a lot of control over how you begin this life. And things happen in between that shape you. But in the end, it's not who loved you, because that can be influenced by gifts, by power. You're the boss, you're a celebrity. But in the end, it's about who did you love? Whether they love you back makes no difference. But it's who did you love? And so he followed that philosophy at the end, because that's kind of my thought. He picked up on that, right? I said, it's about who you love, not who loves you. They could all reject you. It doesn't make any difference. But you love them, and you serve them, and you give to them, no strings attached. And he followed me. And I hope others listen to that and do the same thing. But life is a gift every single day and every moment that you're breathing and have a body. Give it a purpose, especially now with this virus, because you may have a friend. If you haven't contacted them on the phone or email and you're not talking to them, you don't know if your friend in Wales is going to be there, or in Germany is going to be there, or in New York. People are not hanging around. There's a lot of souls exiting right now. This is worldwide. All of us are suffering. A lot of people staying home are angry, frustrated with politicians, frustrated with the disease. I mean, there's people having to spend time together. Domestic violence is on the rise. So this is the time to stop arguing, learning to be friends with the people that you're stuck in the house with, right? Mm-hmm. Take advantage of it. This is your meditation cave. This is the time to go within. You've never had so much time in your hand. You don't have to go to work. Meditate. Read great books, right? Phone friends. Well, I hope that we have another conversation someday. I'm here with about another 50,000 stories, but
Those were brilliant. And that was a lovely way to end, and very much pertinent to the times we're living in and the issues so many people are facing.
Let me just give a shout out to a couple of your fellow citizens there, to James and his beautiful partner, Serena, and to Anthony Summers, Jeff Thompson, and Peter Lee, who and his family, who took great care of me, and of course Peter Skilkins and all these other people that I pray for every day. So blessings and peace to everybody in the UK and Germans. I know you got a station in Germany, so those people and friends that are listening to me in Germany, I shout out to you as well. So I wish everyone well. God bless.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. Good luck with you as well. Hope you stay safe and well.
I'm doing the best I can.
You're listening to the Weird Tales radio show with Charles Christian.
For more about the Reverend Bill McDonald, check out his autobiography, A Spiritual Warrior's Journey, and also his website at www.revbillmcdonald.com. And, staying with books, let's bring on our second guest, Rex Hurst. He is the author of a new novel, What Hell May Come, which is published this month by Crystal Lake Publishing. It's based on the Satanic Panics of the 1980s, and Rex says, having read all the supposedly true, in inverted commas, literature at the time about satanic cults influencing youth culture, particularly the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game and heavy metal music, which many people reckoned was some kind of portal into Satanism, and he imagined, what would it be like in a world where all that was true? Right, and it's my great pleasure to be talking to Rex Hurst, the author of a new novel, What Hell May Come, which is, I'll give you the full details, but it is published on June the 12th by Crystal Lake Publishing. And it's an interesting concept you've got there, Rex, because you're basing it on the probably now largely forgotten Satanic Panic of the 1980s.
Right. Well, technically it started in the 1970s. It was building up to it, but it hit its hysterical heights in the 80s and then in the early 90s as well.
Yeah.
It hit so hard in the 80s because all the televangelists got on TV and were spouting about it.
Yes.
Because they needed, well, it's a perfect tool for them, right? There was this enemy which did not actually exist and could not hit back that they could rail against.
Yeah. And I think we also forget that back then in the 80s, the televangelists, before several of them were discredited and disappeared in a big way.
All of them seem to have been discredited at one point or another.
Yes, for all precisely the sins that they were advocating people not commit. But
right.
We forget just how much money they were making and how big a businesses they were.
No, yeah, you still see that nowadays here with the mega churches, specifically in the fundamentalist parts of the South. Not all of the South. The South has changed a lot since then, but yeah, that's $1 million business. I mean, there are people who go in there. It's a way to really generate revenue. I mean, it's not a vocation in the same sense as we tend to think. The Church of England, and with the Catholic Church.
Yep.
Where you go in there for life. I mean, there are people who go in there, make a lot of money, then leave and do something else.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm sure we were probably old school. I was raised Catholic, and that's, once you became a priest, you were that for life, unless something traumatic happened.
Yep. No, it was the same here with the Church of England. It was very much, as you say, a vocation rather than a career. And,
right.
You didn't make money as a parish priest. Yes.
You made money for the church, but not for yourself personally.
Yes, exactly. Now, we did have a similar satanic panic, probably inspired by the American experience over here in the 1980s as well, which resulted in one of the Scottish islands, virtually every child there being taken into care at one stage because of quite preposterous allegations. And this is always the thing that intrigues us. It's that when you read the allegations that were being made, you think, how can anyone have seriously believed it? It was,
yes.
I mean,
yeah. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely, with 2020 hindsight, it's the most ridiculous things in the world. But people fell for it because they didn't know any better.
Yeah. And I think that was also the era we started to have the hypnotic regression therapy, wasn't it? When people would be hypnotized and taken back to remember things that supposedly had happened in their past.
Now, that was based on a case of Michelle Smith. And the book is called Michelle Remembers. And she was hypnotized by her psychiatrist, Lawrence Pasder, into the childhood traumas in her life, and she claimed that her mother was part of a satanic cult. and that they ritually abused her. But she didn't just claim that. She claimed that she was part of an 81-day festival, a satanic festival or ritual, whatever, in some little town in Canada where they literally conjured up the devil.
Yeah.
And the devil spoke to them in rhyming couplets. Exactly. I mean,
yeah,
this is what the book claims. And then all of a sudden this started to spark. Now, what the book leaves out is the fact that these two people, Michelle Smith and Lawrence Pazder, eventually divorced their spouses and married each other.
No conflict of interest there, then.
Yeah, exactly. But this sparked a whole big thing, and of course, don't forget, this is also the rise of the talk shows being more sensationalistic. This is before Jerry Springer, but you had Geraldo Rivera, who would do anything for a good headline.
Yeah.
So he tended to spread this. And Oprah, Oprah is all respectable now, but when she first started out, she went along the sensationalistic route just like everyone else did. So, and people didn't know if this was successful or not. Now we know that all these people are being manipulated. When you're in a hypnotic state, you're manipulated, but people weren't 100% sure about that back then.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it was very much regarded as a legitimate and what could possibly go wrong type tool. Yes, as you say, and a lot of child abuse cases, certainly over in the UK, were similar things where it was purely as a result of hypnotism that that young adults remembered all this abuse, and it was accepted as fact. Now, in the UK, there was a lot of scandal and children taken into care and great distress for their parents, but nobody actually went to jail. But over in the US, I seem to recall that quite a few people working in the childcare type.
Yeah, that really hit as a witch hunt that was in California. And it was in California and Florida, and part of it was led by Jana Reno, which is how she became famous.
Right.
Basically, she didn't lead it. She had a commission brought in with all these fanatics who assumed that if the child pointed at you, the person was guilty.
Yeah.
And of course, all these people, and these are low-paid workers, so they couldn't afford to defend themselves. And they're all these claims that they were all part of one secret underground satanic organization designed to bring the children into the cult, then repress their memories and somehow bring them out later on, bring the memories back out later on, and be part of the cult.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, all of those were eventually overturned. As it turned out, none of that ever happened. Only one person's didn't, and the guy was an actual pedophile.
Yeah.
But their lives are destroyed. I mean, they didn't just overturn overnight. It took like half a decade to a decade to get all these people out of prison.
Yeah.
So their lives are destroyed.
Yes.
Then there's the case of the West Memphis 3, where a couple of kids were killed and brutally killed. Now, that's a case you want to look up if you want to be depressed for about a week. And these 3 kids were railroaded into I don't know if I can't remember if they were confessed or that, but they were basically railroaded by the police. The police doctored evidence to make it look like they did it, and they picked up on it because they listened to heavy metal music, and wore black clothing and that sort of thing. And of course, you see, I have people on other sides. My wife thinks that they're completely innocent. My other friend thinks they were guilty, but the police simply framed guilty people.
Yes.
They framed them, no doubt, but they still do. So I don't know. But either way, their case was handled terribly.
Because, I mean, that's the other thing that was happening then was the heavy metal music and Dungeons and Dragons, the game.
Youth culture brought that out. New youth culture. And, of course, for some reason, older generations always fear what the youth culture did. I mean, you saw that in generation after generation.
Yeah.
Back in the 50s, it was the attack on comic books, right?
Yes. Yep.
They were burning comic books, and comic books are evil. They're just generation of youth. And it was also, Elvis Presley. when he was on TV, they only shot him from the waist up because of his swiveling hips might, seduce the young viewers.
I know. And it's also if you play heavy metal albums, the vinyl obviously, play them backwards, you get satanic messages coming out. Of course, if you're listening for a satanic message, then you interpret whatever you hear.
I've only ever, no one's ever come up with anything.
Yeah.
I've listened to these people. They all claim it, but none of them actually demonstrate it.
Yeah.
The closest they ever got was the Judas Priest case, if you remember that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the guy, the kid was heavily into drugs, dropped out of school, saw no future. So he took a shotgun and he blew his own face off, half his face off, right?
Yeah.
But the character of Arseface from Preacher is based on that kid. Because he didn't put the shotgun right. He didn't put it in his mouth and pull it up. He put it under his chin and blew the lower half of his face off. And the parents blamed Judas Priest because he listened to Judas Priest albums. And, of course, all they did, they played it backwards, and all they heard was it sounded something like, say, do it. Which I don't understand how that, you have to really dig into the audio to pull that out. Well,
I mean, it's that thing, there's a term for it, I think it's pareidolia, where you hear things what you want to hear. If you are looking for satanic references in a song being played backwards, anything that vaguely sounds like it, you will latch onto it and say, ha-ha. But if you are listening to it played backwards and nobody's told you anything about it, you will just hear backwards music. You'll just hear the gobbledygook. But I say, it's what you're looking for. I mean, what's intriguing about this is people seem to have forgotten that the Salem witch trials and some similar witch trials in the UK, all of those began with children denouncing relatives, elders, people they didn't like, and they were all accepted as totally credible, and it must be true because the child said it.
Right. Because their fear, and it was a fear of this unknown thing coming into their lives.
It's the thing that 300 years on, the lessons still hadn't been learned, that you can't actually believe what children say, and certainly when they are then being encouraged and coached and are obviously getting attention and people are making a fuss of them because they want them to cooperate, which was exactly what happened with some of, say, the old witch trials.
Right. And also if they're allowed to get out of trouble.
Yes.
And blaming other people. Part of it is, though, it seems like a lot of times, especially some of these things start off with, a guy committing suicide or something like that, or attempting suicide, and their parents latch onto the one thing that's obviously didn't cause it.
Yeah.
Listening to heavy, the one kid, one of the biggest cases back in 1979 was the disappearance of James Dallas Eggbert III. Now, this is what started all the anti-D&D stuff, because he was a senior at, I believe it was Michigan State College, and he suffered from mental illness. He was an alcoholic. He did drugs. And he was gay when it was not okay to be gay, so there's the mental stress because of that. And he also liked to play Dungeons and Dragons. Well, he disappeared one day, and the parents all blamed the fact that he did Dungeons and Dragons rather than any of the other obvious things: the mental illness, the drug abuse, or his problems with coming out as a homosexual. And he disappeared, and he was eventually found on the streets of New York City 6 months later, living like a bum. But they blamed it on the D&D. Now that, of course, was made into a novel called Mazes and Monsters, which was then made into a TV movie starring young Tom Hanks. You can catch it on YouTube if you want to.
Right.
Oh God, it's terrible. It's over the top because he believes he is his character, and he goes and he stabs a guy, and he goes and just he can't handle not being he can't handle the real world, so he escapes into this fantasy world of dungeons or mazes and monsters as they call it there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just but again, what are you going to focus on the one thing that is obvious? That it's not. It's Dungeons and Dragons didn't drive that kid crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or same thing what they did with the Columbine shooting. Remember, they try to blame Keanu Reeves's outfit in The Matrix.
Yes.
Or the fact they listen to Marilyn Manson music.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the causes. Yeah, you listen to Marilyn Manson, so you decided to go shoot up his school.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But we see it all again. That's the other lesson. That's the more modern lesson. Is that they latch onto what is different from what they know,
and
then have a whole crusade around it.
Yeah, and sadly, there is an awful lot of people who choose to believe it and also will exploit it.
Well, it's because they don't. Well, yeah, the exploitation part. They see a good money. They see a good crusade against something they can't fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And also, which might not be true, so that's even better.
Yes.
You don't need proof, and you use a scare tactic to get everyone on your side. Because that's what it really kind of boils down to, fear of the unknown.
And, of course, when you are attacking something like that doesn't exist, it can't defend itself because it doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah.
So they attack something like, say, Dungeons and Dragons, which, is mostly youth culture. But they say it's also part of this larger thing. So they're attacking it sideways. They say, we're not interested in, the game itself, but just the satanic elements. And thus they force these things to self-censor.
Yeah.
To the point where they're harmless, they're toothless. And we're seeing some more of that nowadays.
Yep.
We're seeing a lot of people having to self-censor. I've noticed a lot more on YouTube. No one swears anymore. Used to be on YouTube, everyone swore left and right. Now no one does. They can't even say the word Nazi. They have to spell it out.
Yes.
I mean, we're seeing that sort of self-censor. Of course, that's because everyone's livelihood is being, a hit. Mm. But it's again, instead of Satanists, the modern day one is the Nazis.
Yeah.
Which don't exist really anymore. I mean, not in the same sense. They think, or the term alt-right.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. The alt-right. Yeah.
Which don't tell me what that is. I don't even know what it means. That's where they say far right or far left. I don't know what they mean because no one can give me a decent definition of it.
Yeah. It's all a matter of perspective.
Right.
I mean, where you are and what your own view is, people are either more right-wing or more left-wing. But, I mean...
Right. That means that they're Nazis or communists.
Exactly. Yes. Anyway, what prompted you to turn the story, the events into a novel? What was...
Well, I picked up, my life was actually affected a little bit. Growing up in Buffalo, there was a strong sense of this. And there was a lot of when I was maybe 12 years old, between 10 and 12, there was a certain amount of teenagers who committed suicide or died because of drug overdose, which the papers all claimed were due to some sort of satanic influence.
Right.
Or had occultic tendencies.
Yes.
I thought was ridiculous. There was an area that Geraldo Rivera, I believe, covered called Snakeland, which was not far from where I grew up, which was supposed to be where a coven of Satanists hung out. And I knew this area. And these weren't Satanists. These were a bunch of dumb, drunk teenagers, right, who went to this place in the woods to party.
Yeah.
They smoke pot, they get drunk, they listen to heavy metal music, and then they'd read from the Satanic Bible.
Yeah.
At the time, this is the Satanic Bible put out that was written by Anton LaVey.
Yes.
And at the time, you could buy it in bookstores. You could go to Walden Books, go in there, slap down $3, get a copy of the Satanic Bible. And there was a ton of them there. I mean, I bought a copy of it then, too. Now, eventually, so they all claimed that there was, this Satanist stuff going on. And it technically was, but it was just a bunch of dumb kids who later on, they kept the drugs, they kept the pot, they kept the alcohol, they kept the music, and they just dropped the Satanism part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that was, they're only doing it to, show I'm so rebellious, man. I'm so wild and crazy. Look at me reading from the Satanic Bible.
Yeah.
So it was like BS. But I grew up hearing about it. And so my life was kind of affected a lot by it. And I would get these people would come up to me and give me these little, what they call chick tracts.
Yep.
Yeah, which were, you've seen those, right?
I've seen them. Explain to our listeners what the chick tracts are.
These were put out by Jack Chick, and they were little rectangular comic strips. And they were maybe about 10 to 12 pages. And each one of them held a very fundamentalist view of the world. They were designed to keep you, on the right track on Christianity. And eventually they became like attack ads. There was a great one called Dark Dungeons about the evils of role-playing games. And then they would attack, the Catholics. They would attack Mormonism. If you weren't part of his specific fundamentalist denomination, you were going to hell. Yeah. And they're hysterical. And the thing is that they were pretty high quality. The artwork was decent in them. And I used to collect them all the time, like I collect regular comic books because I thought they were so funny. Yeah. But they seem to be all over the place then. So a couple of years ago, I went back and I started reading this literature again and looking into it. And I said, wow, this is such a demented, jaundiced, paranoid view of the world. It's perfect. I mean, it's got horror material written all over it. So I started putting together a list of all the things they claim that aren't true and say, what would the world actually look like if this was true? And that's how I created this. So this is alternate history, if you were, if all the claims of the Satanic Panic was. But I do have to warn you, it's not tongue-in-cheek. I think one of the reviewers thought it was going to be, a funny look at it, and it's not. Yeah. It's serious.
Yes, I have read it. I think it's also worth pointing out it is an adult read, isn't it?
I guess so. I didn't intend it to be at first, but then it just sort of blossomed into that.
Yes. Have you got, I know it's only just coming up for its formal launch, have you got any plans to continue with something similar or a sequel, or wait and see what happens?
Well, I've written a couple of short stories that are still in the same vein. I think it could blossom up. I don't know, if it's a hit, I'll write a sequel. Yeah. But I like to keep all my horror stories in the same sort of universe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm writing another book right now in the same universe, but it's not. It's connected, but you don't have to have read the other books to understand what's going on in this one. Yeah. I don't like this. I'm starting to think there's too many series going on out there. People writing, this is for part 1 of a 3-book series. Well, I'm relatively unknown, almost completely unknown. Why are they going to read book 2 or book 3? Yeah. So if I do a series, it'll be after establishing myself somewhat. Yeah. I think there's room there for a sequel. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, Rex, thank you very much for your time today. That was fascinating.
My pleasure.
Many thanks.
All right, my thanks for you too.
Good day, gentlefolk. I doth have breaking news. Your Weird Tales host, Charles Christian, has written a new book called Saints and Sinners in Dark Age England. 5 shocking true tales that are stranger than fiction. There's murder, mayhem, treason, incest, adultery, and worse. Read about the real antics of 9 saints. Yes, saints. 8 kings and 5 queens of England, plus the wickedest of all stepmothers. And be amazed, or horrified, or appalled, or all 3. If you love weird history, and methinks you do, hop over to Amazon for your copy of Charles Christian's Saints and Sinners in Dark Age England. Grab yours now.
Just a reminder there on the book that's by Rex Hurst, What Hell May Come, published by Crystal Lake Publishing. And that's it. We're almost out of time. Next week, we're back in the land of cryptozoology with an interview with Andy McGrath, the author of Beasts of Britain. However, before we go, let's squeeze in one last story about folklore. Now, if you live in the UK, you cannot have escaped the political and media furore surrounding a government advisor called Dominic Cummings, who not only seemed to think lockdown rules didn't apply to him, but also went on a strange jaunt to a beauty spot called Barnard Castle, supposedly to check his eyesight. Yeah, you need to Google it to get the full bizarre nature of the story. Needless to say, the only people who believed his pitiful excuses were his political masters. But, irony, it has since been pointed out that in the 18th and 19th century there was a phrase, "Come, come, that's Barnard Castle," or "Come, come, that's Barney's Castle," that was used as a response when you heard someone giving a weak excuse to explain their bad actions. In other words, they couldn't even make the effort to tell a lie plausibly. Apparently the phrase has its origins in a rebellion against Queen Elizabeth I, when a rebel baron locked himself away in Barnard Castle rather than go out to face the enemy. But that really is it now. Just remains for me to say this is Charles Christian saying until the next time we're together, stay well, stay weird, stay different.
Black Shuck, the demon dog of East Anglia, is baying at the moon, which means it's time for us to go. You've been listening to the Weird Tales radio show with Charles Christian, your weekly fix of ghost stories, urban myths, witchcraft, magic and folklore. You can keep in touch with us online at www.weirdtalesradio.com, by email to weirdtales@icloud.com, and on Twitter @ChristianUncut. Join us again next week for another edition of the Weird Tales radio show. Good night.